Hi, I'm Matthew Reed. I'm a computer science major who is 20 years old, and I will be introducing our topic for today. First off, what is regression testing? Regression testing is the testing done to ensure that changes made to software, such as adding new features or modifying existing features, have not adversely affected features of the software that should not change. In other words, it's making sure that when you go in to fix a bug or when you're trying to add new functionality, you don't break the entire system or regress the functionality of the system. So how can we do regression testing? One way is to go through all the old tests that you have for the previous versions of the software and repeat those tests to make sure that nothing's changed other than what you want to have changed. But after a while, you get a lot of tests piled up, so it may be better to create a subset of those tests that have to do with what you modified. Another thing that you might need to do is generate new tests to make sure that whatever functionality you implemented works well with the rest of the system that's already implemented. So here's one example of using regression testing in practice. Let's say you're creating a video game, and you have enemy artificial intelligence that just simply moves back and forth on the screen. It's very simple, but you want that to be updated, to have more functionality than just moving across the screen. So you go to update that. So you make a few changes to the enemy's AI, and then you run the program again to make sure that nothing has changed that you don't want to have changed. But, to your dismay, the player character no longer accepts keyboard input, so now it's just sitting there on the screen. Clearly, making changes to the enemy's AI had adverse effects on the player's movement controls, and had you not tested it right after making the change, you may not have caught that until much further on in development, and it would have been hard to trace back to this certain change to the enemy's AI. However, thanks to regression testing, you were able to catch the problem early so that you can make changes and fix the problem as soon as possible.
All right, everybody. This is Alex Brazil. I'm 27 years old actually. I'm a software engineering at BAU Idaho. This is my senior year, and I'll be talking to you about the advantage of the regression testing. The first advantage that we have on this design is the minimization, where we basically try to minimize the tests that we use. And the benefits of that is that they reduce the amount of work because we run through less tests. We have less chance to include test case that will fail because we, as we'll see in the next bullet point, we prioritize the tests that we're gonna use, and also we have high chance to select tests that will provide different outputs. So with that, we cover a larger area of outputs and possibilities for our testing. The prioritization is, as I mentioned, when you prioritize which tests you're going to use, and you sort them by additional coverage. And each additional coverage causes a cost. So if you have a problem with budget, that will help you a lot, which gives you a flexibility of saving costs. So if you have more money, you can run more tests. If you have less money, you can run less tests. And this next slide, you can see this chart that on the yellow part shows all the tests, all the regression tests that we can use. That they will not cause any modification because they will not be useful. The white part shows all the tests that they will cause some kind of modification, and the little block shows the tests that we will end up using after we sort them. So those are the main advantages that our team were able to find on the regression tests.
Hello, my name is Jordan Dixon. I am 26 years old. I'm a software engineering major, and I am from Washington State. I will be discussing the disadvantages of using regression testing. The first disadvantage of regression testing is the difficulty in maintaining full coverage testing. As each test for current functionality is created and tested, it is then added to the regression testing bank for later use. This bank can become quite large over time. The second point is small changes in code require regression testing. These tests need to be run to assure that new functionality does not have a negative impact on existing functionality. The third point directly relates to points 1 and 2, and that it can be difficult to perform under time and resource constraints. This is because of the quantity of tests and the frequency with which they need to be run. A misunderstanding of project requirements can result in poor regression testing. If those who are creating the tests do not have a clear understanding of the project requirements, then poor tests can be created, which will then be added to the regression testing bank, affecting future iterations of the project. Changes to the project over time can affect previously written regression tests. Projects are constantly evolving, and so too are their requirements. As requirements are removed, so too should their tests be removed. This means that there must be individuals who regularly search through the test bank in order to remove unnecessary tests. Finally, manual regression testing is time-intensive. Without using automated testing, the alternative is to use manual regression testing. Manual regression testing, as stated before, is time-intensive and can be tedious to accomplish.
Hello, my name is Colin Dye. Next, we'll discuss the effectiveness of regression testing. The effectiveness of regression testing greatly depends on the following criteria: the frequency and specificity of each test case, the effectiveness of the changes made after an error is found, whether the testing is automated or not, and the prioritization of test cases. Because regression testing is based on a system of tests and then corrections, there is a possibility, as has been discussed previously on the disadvantage page, that changes in the future could affect changes already made in the past, or that changes made in the future can negatively affect the rest of the program. And so it is very important that for an effective regression test to occur, that you have a priority set upon the type of test cases that you will perform within your program. For instance, if you have a priority upon the usability from a user interface standpoint, you will focus much of your regression testing on that test case. In addition, for the best results in testing, we suggest pairing this method with other testing methods, specifically macro testing, because regression testing is so specific and can go from case to case. Sometimes it can miss larger extenuating issues. Again, the frequency and specificity of each test case can affect the effectiveness. Whether or not we are performing these tests in all areas of the program or in areas of most importance can greatly affect and determine the amount of effective change that this testing brings to the program.